Hello and welcome to the Exam Hall. This is the podcast where I sit down with a guest and we answer questions from what is known as the hardest exam in the world, the All Souls Fellowship exam. My name is Cherry and I am your host. I am an ex-education professional, soon to be uni student and connoisseur of toast. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. I'm glad you haven't been scared off. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, then let me get you up to speed on what is going on here. All Souls College, Oxford is maybe the most prestigious and exclusive academic institution in the world. Each applicant must sit 4 3-hour exams, 2 specialist papers and 2 general papers, which is where we will be drawing our questions from. If you are lucky enough to be awarded one of only 2 possible fellowships per year, you receive funding and resources for a 7-year period to fund any research project of your choice. To be eligible to apply, you must already hold a degree from Oxford or be currently studying there at postgraduate level. However, here at the Exam Hall, we have no eligibility criteria. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest for today's episode. You may have seen her gracing the West End last summer in Greece, and she may be returning very, very soon. I don't know. I got a premonition. It is none other than the absolute wonder that is Lizzy-Rose Esin-Kelly.
Hi. Wonder. Wow, that's mad. Thank you.
You are.
Hi.
You're a wonder. You're a revelation. Wait. Hello, Lizzie.
Hi.
How you doing on this fine June day?
I'm good. I'm warm. I'm feeling great.
Well, Lizzie, I am very, very glad you are here. Tell me, what qualifications do you have to be sitting here today? And we use qualification in a very liberal sense. Those may be traditional academic qualifications, or they could be qualifications gained a little bit more unconventionally from the school of life.
My qualification is that I'm black, and my other one is that I've got a first in musical theatre at Guildford School of Acting.
Woo!
Yeah,
Woyo.
So good for me, I guess.
Well done, you.
Yay me. I did well.
Did you work hard for both of those?
Yeah. The first one of me being black, that wasn't really me. That was my mother's choice. The degree was me, all me. I worked very hard. So yay.
Well, Lizzie, I am very glad to have you here today.
Thanks.
Today's question comes from the General Paper 1 of September 2022. And it is, should gender and/or colourblind casting be the norm in the performing arts?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so. I think it's an interesting situation nowadays because obviously me being in musical theatre, a lot of shows now I feel like have problems with casting, not even just colourblind, just casting widely diversely, because the pool of people is not diverse enough for the shows. Like the supply is not big enough for the demand. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think you should be doing that. We live in a very diverse world, and that's just not. I think, obviously, like gender as well is a newer thing. I think in this industry. I mean, colourblind casting and racism has always been here, but I think gender diversity is something that I feel like the industry is now kind of trying to understand, along with colourblind, or just like casting more POC people in shows. They're now trying to understand it. Would I say they're doing it successfully? I don't know. I think it's dependent on the casting team, depending on the creative team. I feel like sometimes the motivations as well of casting certain people are very contrived and not truthful to why they want to do it. They just want to look woke, whatever woke means these days. Do you know what I mean? They're not doing it to be like, oh, you guys are good, so let's give you a platform to be representation for something that is lacking.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they're like, well, we don't want to get cancelled by XYZ on Twitter. So
Yeah.
let's like put all these people in and then just go, oh, okay, that's done. Like, I also feel like in terms of like gender and colourblind casting, I feel like there needs to be as well like a talk on, if you bring said person to your company, you need to have a wider understanding of what that person's going to need, because it's not the same as, you know, just a group of white people, like cis white people just like coming together and just being like, oh great, we're going to do a show, and there's no like ramifications of their presence being in a room.
It goes beyond just the casting. It goes
100%.
beyond get them in the room and then make sure that they're given adequate resources and support so they are able to thrive in that room.
I feel like they don't understand that, like, for example, for me, because I'm black, lol, it's not the same. Like, I don't walk into the room the same as a white counterpart would. It will never be the same. There needs to be like racism talks. There needs to be some sort of well-being support where we know that we can go to. I don't know. I just feel like, and to be fair, well-being for everybody, because everyone's got mental health, but I just feel like the notion of introducing colorblind and gender casting, I feel like it stops at the surface level of a cast announcement. It doesn't go deeper into the performance of the person. Because even so, I don't think many creative teams even think about when a non-white person or a non-cisgendered person would do a performance, like what those implications are and how the performance needs to be adapted. I don't think they think about that at all. I think they just go, oh, like, you're talented and actually we need diversity. I actually would question a lot of people to ask, so why have you picked this performer? I'd want to know. Because not even that I don't think that certain people should be picked, because I do actually stand there and say that there are some, I have seen some performances and I know of some performers that I do think it's absolutely wild that they're in the West End, because if they were white, they would not be getting the chance to perform. 100%, they would not get the chance to perform. They wouldn't be good enough. However, there's not enough of us. And I don't like, because that's not even bad to say, because for every white person, there are going, in terms of the big pool of them, there are going to be a lot of non-talented people. That's how it works. Like, not everybody that auditions is going to be talented. The same way that even though the pool is smaller for, obviously I can only specifically speak for non-white people, in terms of black people, in terms of I only speak for myself, but in understanding more of what it's like to be that kind of person in the industry. For every... There's not many of us, but not many of us are great. Like, the pool is smaller, but the pool's even smaller because not all of us are talented enough. We can't all be incredible. That makes no sense.
So what you're saying is you think that some casting teams are feeling the pressure of social
100%.
media and sort of social consciousness, and they feel the pressure to kind of throw non-white members of cast in there without really any care or
100%
thought behind it.
Yeah, and I don't think all of it is malicious, but I do think that from some shows that I know of and know of friends that have been in them, there's a massive question of, why did you make the show this way? With this amount of non-conforming to what musical theatre used to be XYZ years ago. Why would you make a show that's trying to triumph being non-white, like non-cisgendered, like being yourself? Why would you triumph that and then have no creative license within that show to actually build a foundation of adapting it? I know of a show that they just put on the show as if they were all white, but basically none of them were white or cisgendered. And it's a bit like, well, then you're just using them for the colour of their skin and for the fact that they are not that.
But is that not colour and gender blind casting? Which is that they're completely ignoring colour and gender, and they're saying everyone get on stage, no matter who you are, what you look like, what you identify as. you could say, well, that is being colour and gender blind. We're choosing to ignore it. So do you, is it not that colour and gender blind casting should be the norm? Is it more conscious casting or?
Yeah, I think it should be conscious. I personally find it like the word blind in this situation very weird, because when I hear colorblind casting, I genuinely think it just means that they're like, anyone who is of anything can play this.
Yeah.
Not that they're gonna now not use what the performer has as a performer.
Yeah.
But I do actually think that for most people, they use like the fact that they don't want to think about what it would mean for this person to do this performance, and then just be like, oh well, they're XYZ minority, so that's good for us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I do think it has to be conscious. I can't sit there and believe that you would, because then for me it is just then using someone for their what they have, and not because you think they're good. It's using them to your advantage of going, oh, you see what we can do. We're going with the times without trying to then lay foundation of making the industry better. It's just going, yeah, for now we're being told we have to do this. You're not doing it because you believe in it. And obviously I've had talks with friends being like, this is the stepping stone kind of thing. Like we need to swing one way before we reach an equilibrium.
Yeah.
But I do just think it's dangerous, because there does get a point where it becomes questionable to me. And I don't think that performers should feel like, it's more in my mind, because, for the kids that watch it, like they're sitting there, they're in a new generation. This generation now watching us, because we're not in the same generation as them anymore. For them, they're having a time where they can see people that look like them, which is not what my generation grew up on.
No.
Which is amazing for them.
Yeah.
However, I do not think to the detriment of the performer's mental health that they should be put on stage and be used like a puppet for that to be the end goal. I personally think there's another way to do it for the end goal to be the same.
Yeah.
But we just don't. We value the performer. I just feel like some performers are not being valued.
Yes.
And they're being used as a front man for things, instead of sitting there and going, oh, they've really thought about what it means for this character to be this thing. And so they've really thought like, how would you, like, because you can tell when something's authentic and you can tell when it's fake.
Yeah.
And I just think I've seen some things where I've gone, you've not even thought about what it would be like for this person in this time to be playing this character, or what the gravity is. You understand the gravity in terms of your ticket sales and what you can put on your posters, but you've not understood the storyline, or how they're going to feel when they have to step on stage and potentially even after the show be hailed abuse because they don't look like XYZ or they're not what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, as I said in your intro, last year you were playing Marty in Grease, a character who traditionally is played by a white actress. In the film adaptation, it was a white actress. There's nothing in the script that specifically says that she's white, but we come to think of her as a white character because that is traditionally how she's been played. You were playing Marty. So that was colourblind casting.
Yeah, like...
What was your experience with that?
I feel like it was a good new experience for me to have. It was the first time I'd properly played a character that had nothing to do with race. Because before I played Deanna Morales in Chorus Line at Curve, and she was supposed to be...
And you were stunning.
Thank you very much. But yeah, no, so that was, I had to play like a Afro Puerto Rican character. But this one was the first time that I played someone who really is just a pretty girl at school, like quoted to be the most beautiful girl at school, which I thought, whoa, thank you. But I think it's the first time for Grease that we did it, obviously it's still on at the Dominion this year, with some of the same people that were there last year. But last year when I was in it was the first time it's come back in X many years, and it's the first time that all 3 out of the 4 Pink ladies were non-white. So we had like Mary Tyler Moore, who's mixed race, and Jocasta Armgill, who's also mixed race, and Mary played Jan and Jocasta played Rizzo, and obviously I play Marty. And I think it was, for me, it was just a really weird experience, not because like I didn't feel like I could put my blackness into it. If anyone saw the show, and if any of the people who did the show with me knew, I put all my blackness into that role. I was very much me. But I just think that with certain shows, it's just harder. Like, it was a more difficult for me because of the time period we were in. It's like 1950, like 1960. Obviously, civil rights movement is happening. And obviously the story's made for all white people, basically. When they wrote it, they never thought about it being performed by any other people. If anything, like, there's racist comments about Italians in the show. Do you know what I mean? But Nikolai Foster's like the greatest man ever. Love him to bits. And he really is champion of just, if you're good, I want to employ you and I want to work with you. So it was, and me and him had many talks about like the fact that, like, you know, some of us are black and it's going to be weird. And he was really open to listening to me, as he always is, and like we discussed about those kind of things and how that will play into the show. But obviously people are gonna say what they're gonna say, and we had tweets being like, "Oh, black people shouldn't be in this show," like just silly
received
things.
Quite a bit of press attention, and there was quite a bit of controversy over the gall of Nikolai Foster to dare employ black people.
It was so silly. I just remember thinking, you people have too much time on your hands. Why is this so deep to you? It's never that peak.
What was your experience of getting online hate? Although it wasn't sort of, they weren't saying by name Lizzy-Rose Esin-Kelly, why are you black?
That would have been crazy. That would have been absolutely insanity.
But it was directed generally at the black members of the cast generally at the queer members of the cast.
Yeah. Well, the black people, yeah. Oh, yeah, because they said same-sex dancing, didn't they?
They didn't like there was same-sex dancing in the show.
Grow up.
What was your experience of sort of being on the receiving end of hate? Did you feel like it was sort of water off a duck's back, or did you feel affected by it a bit more?
It just really opened my eyes to the fact that, like, oh, people are crazy. Like, actually, people are mad. And, like, I felt it was just silly. Like, the thing was as well, like, that whole situation of getting that hate was, quote unquote hate, was just silly. Like, it came from people who felt like they owned that show, and they felt like they had some ownership of it because it has been a film, it's been a musical they saw in the Dominion. I think it was at the Dominion X many years ago. Like, they felt like they had ownership over these characters because they're stop boxed characters of, like, Marty's the pretty one, Jan's the funny one, Frenchie's the kooky one, Rizzo's the lead, like the leader of the group, she's the sassy one, Danny's the good looking one, Kanicki's the bad boy, Doodie's the cute one. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone has like a thing about them that every friendship group will turn around and go, oh, I'm the Jan of the group, oh, I'm the Rizzo, I'm the da-da-da-da. So then when all these, they were just not old, but 50-year-old white women would come and see the show, they'd just be like, oh, not my Grace. And they'd type whatever they wanted to type because they've read an article that was printed apparently that was never supposed to be printed, or some of the things were just not, some people had said certain things that, like, other people would go, we never said that in the interview. And they turned around and didn't like it. It's just silly. It just made me sit there and go, oh, like, as much as, for example, as much as the industry thinks that things are moving, the world hasn't changed. The world is still exactly the same. The racism is just very different. I do believe that. I don't think racism has changed. I just think people have adapted to change the way they now are racist. And I think that will continue to happen until people open their eyes and go, oh, it's very much still prevalent.
Yeah.
I do feel like the industry that I am in, obviously in musical theatre, I do feel like there is a rhetoric of, not me hitting the mic, of a rhetoric of thinking that things have changed. And because, and I think that's from even certain performers in the industry who are white, who see a lot of, you know, quote unquote leads or quote unquote diverse. I'd say quote unquote, because even though Greece had 8 black people, out of a cast of 28, that's not diverse. That's just 8 black people. We had no Asian people, we had no Latino people, we had no disabled people. Do you know what I mean? So like it's not, I'd say that we had 8 black people. I wouldn't say we were diverse.
Right.
But for example, some people would sit there and see that and be like, oh, well, you know how it's changing nowadays. You know, there's many just non-white people just in jobs now. And it's like, it makes them think that that racism is still not here. Like, I don't go into casting rooms and experience racism still.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much apparent. And even I've had friends who've told me that they haven't been allowed to audition for a role that has nothing to do with race. And they're non-white, but they don't look ethnic enough. So they've just not been taken further on in the process because they've decided they want a character to look
on the right
specifically.
side of the line.
Well, 100%. They want a character to look a specific ethnicity, which then I go, well, this is also, again, contrived, because how is this not just... This isn't helping a situation. If you sit there and go, this character needs to be this race when there's no race attached to the character, you're not helping a situation. You're still hindering it, because what has made you believe that this character needs to be this race?
Yeah.
That's the other thing I think as well. Like, there's a lot of casting teams that are all white making opinions and making decisions on characters not being white, and or making shows that are really like dependent on characters not being white.
Yes.
And my question to them is, who are your teams you're going to that are non-white to make these actors feel validated in this job? It can't
just be on stage.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that diversity, and in not colorblind casting, quote unquote, whatever that is, whatever that means nowadays, conscious casting, it should be on the panel. Like, diversity in a show does not stop with the actors on stage. It carries on to the crew in the back.
Yes.
Like, where's the wiggies that are non-white to know about black hair? Like, to know about different hair types, that, like, to know about what wigs certain people should probably be wearing if they're a black person.
Yeah.
Like, to understand hair maintenance for black people. Like, specifically for me, like, I had to wear braids under my wig for Greece because of my hair. I'm not doing hair wig prep every week. Like, my hair will fall out. It won't work. It may work for other white people, but that's not me, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But you need people on your team that understand different kinds of people, because in my opinion, if you're going to, this is what the problem is. If you're going to employ non-white people, non-cisgendered people, where is your creative teams to reflect that, so you can then help us and we can all work on this together? Because our job is not to educate you. I was never put on this earth to educate you, and it was never in my contract that I was going to educate you. But now here I am, educating you about how to work with me. And in my mind, there's a difference between talking about it and educating. If you come up to me and ask, so what's the best thing for you? What do you need? How can I help you? That's different. But if I'm now having to, on my deathbed, now chat to you because you've not listened and you've just brought me here, and I'm like, you need to do this, I'm losing hair, that's silly. Like, you should have the education to understand that people are different. And I don't think they're there yet.
Do you feel the pressure as a black woman in the industry to sort of be a figurehead, and, you know, like how do you feel about that pressure?
To be honest, I think it's an honor. Like, I want to be that representation. And I only feel that strongly because I just know there's not many. I'm black, which it is what it is, but there's not many people I haven't come across that is from my background. Like, I'm from South London, and like from my secondary school, Cherry knows about my secondary school. From my secondary school, you don't see man coming.
Not a private school, not a grammar school, not an art specialist school. You came from South London.
It's like, and it's, I don't see or know of many people that went to a school like mine, experienced, like, the world I live in is nothing to do with musical theatre. Like, the only reason I got into it is because my mum took me to stage coach because she was a single parent and was like, this kid has too much energy. We need to do something about that child. Like, but other than that, otherwise, like, I wouldn't be in musical theatre.
Yeah.
There was no door for me to go to for that ever to happen. So I just feel like because of that, and then because I'm black as well, like, there's just I just feel like there's a certain world that I live in that is so, the world that I'm now in is so closed off to the people that are like me, that I want to be that representation to show that there is a door and a way to get there, and there is someone who is there.
Well, your careers advisor said to you...
Oh, my Christ. Oh, my God, I forgot about this story. Basically, my career advisor, Christ almighty, she basically said to me that I was not going to be in musical theatre unless I was going to be in The Lion King, because they don't like black people. And do you know what? She weren't wrong at the time. At the time, she weren't wrong, but she only said it to me because she was friends with my mum, because my mum worked like close with the school in terms of she was like a social worker. So she was like, I know your mum, and I just know that, like, you're a smart girl. You should be doing like science, and you're getting A's and that. And I was just remember thinking like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, she said you won't do musical theatre, like, you won't get in. Like, you won't do that because they don't like black people and like people like us. She specifically was like people like us. And I don't think she even meant black people. She meant people from my school, like my social economic background and the fact that I'm black, and from this school that is like the worst school in the borough, will not be doing a white people show. Like, not even white people show, just be in a white people industry like that.
Or a show like Grease, which 100%, traditionally 100%. Has been played by all white cast.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that just was never a mentality that could have ever been. And even like, I sit there now and I think, wow, like, when I look back at when I was younger, like, I always wanted to do this. When I was like from like 14, 13, I was like, I want to do musical theatre. But like, I look back, that's like 10 years ago, and I go, oh my God, like, where I am now is so wild to me, because it was only a dream, because there was no one there that looked like me.
Yeah.
So I was like, in my head, I was like, I have to just really, really want to do this and actually work hard, because up until about 16, 17, about 17, I didn't see someone who looked like me on stage. And the only person that I remember going, oh my God, they're like me, was Cynthia Erivo. And I remember I wrote about her in my personal statement to GSA, being like, oh, like, you know, like, she's my inspiration, because she was a Nigerian black woman from Stockwell, which is literally down the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's South London. And I was like, that's me. And she's short. So I was like, yeah. She's like 5'2". I was like, yeah, that's me. But like, there was no one that I knew of that was so, in my mind, that I was like, even like Cynthia Erivo, I don't think we came from the same kind of background.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I was like, there's literally nobody. And so that's what, I don't know. I just think that's why I do sit there and go, yeah, this is important for me to be.
Yeah.
Because I know if I saw someone like me when I was younger, my whole perspective on the world would have changed. Like, I would have done so many things differently. I wouldn't have felt like I had to fight so much all the time and be like, it's literally just me. I would have been like, well, there's that person. And I would have clung on to that and really, really believed in myself.
Yeah.
Except I wasn't, not that I didn't believe in myself. I had to, because in my head I thought, nobody else will. There is no other person. So
you're sort of talking about seeing yourself on stage. And did you have any sort of like positive experiences when in Greece at stage door? Or I don't want us to be too down in the dumps about
being black in the industry.
Being black in the industry.
No, it's actually nice. There's actually good things. I'm not gonna lie.
Have you had like any positive experiences?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Sort of either on stage door or through social media in the same way you felt like you could never see yourself in anyone, have you had the sort of reverse experience of people seeing themselves in you?
Oh yeah, 100%. When I was in Greece, I got like DMs all the time,
Really?
being like, "Oh, like just seeing you as a black woman on stage has just filled me with so much joy. Like it makes me feel like I can do it too." I used to cry. I used to just be like, "That's all I want. Like I don't want to be famous." Like the friends who know me know that I don't want to be bait in this industry. That's scary to me. I like being private. It was just really lovely that I could do that. Like, as I said, I don't want to be famous. Like I don't find any joy in people knowing me. The joy I find is that the people who look like me can relate to me and feel like they're not alone. Because I like, not in a peak way, because everyone's felt alone in their life one time, but like I just know that when I was I love saying starting out. I'm such a child. I'm literally 23. Like I'm not even like grown. I've not done much. But saying starting out sounds mad. But
You've been on the West End.
Yeah, but like I only graduated like 2 years ago from school. But yeah, no. So I don't know. Yeah, I found it so important that I could do that for people. Especially my character was like quote unquote the most beautiful girl in school, and I think actually being that character really like. It actually did give me some kind of healing because, you know, growing up if you could see Cherry's face right now, I can't do it. Obviously this is a podcast, but she was giving it, that was the face. But like growing up as a black woman, like I feel like I was thinking about this the other week, like the world hasn't changed that much, but I think people forget like when we were growing up, being black was not pretty at all. Like no one wanted to be black.
Yeah.
And like, obviously now most people want to be black all the time because blackfishing is funny, but like it wasn't a beauty standard, and it still isn't, in my opinion, a beauty standard. It's something that some white people want to emulate so they can make themselves more whatever. But
it's fetishization.
Yeah,
isn't
fetishization.
It?
But yeah, it was really healing because I remember being younger and just being like, as much as I was really proud to be black, like I wanted to be lighter skinned because that's what you want when you're a young black girl growing up even in London when it's really multicultural. Like it's still hard, obviously. And there's a lot of like inner hate because of what the world and the media is telling you about yourself. And, you know, those are really impressionable years when you're a teenager to develop mental patterns about how you should feel about yourself. So, you know, to be a black woman, and of the Pink Ladies, I was the only like fully quote unquote fully black one because the other two were mixed race. To be the darkest pink lady, quote unquote, because I'm still light, but to be quote unquote the darkest pink lady and then to be seen as the prettiest one at school, like that filled me with a lot of like pride, because like that's not, I would have never put myself as that. I would have never put myself as that role, and I was really grateful and really like shocked that Nikolai would think that I could carry a character with that kind of mark of her, and believed that, yeah, of course, that is you. It was really good. And so like to be that and to be the prettiest girl in school and to be the black girl of the group was like great. And it was just lovely that other black women and little black girls could see that and be like, oh my God, everyone's obsessed with her. So yeah, I was really honoured, actually. And it made, you know, Greece was difficult in terms of it's just a tiring show to be doing. You're running around like a maniac. It's fun, but it's tiring.
It was a tiring show to watch. I was sat there in the stalls being like, fuck me, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy on stage.
Lots of energy, big lights, big sound.
Big sound. It's great fun, but it literally, I remember being like, whoa, I've got my job cut out for me. This is no easy feat. This isn't memes. They
made you work.
Yeah, we were.
They made you work for that pay.
I did miss it because it was actually a lot of fun and I loved the cast. But yeah, it was long. In terms of it was just so tired. I remember being tired thinking, wow, I really have Ramalam on that stage and I am dead. I am finished. But no, I was really grateful to be a part of it and to like have that as something I could do. Are you creasing because I said Ramalam on the stage?
I'm sorry, that's really tickled me.
Ramalam. Yeah, no, it was really meaningful, and it's a very special time in my life that I'll always remember and be like, wow, I did that.
Hell yeah, you did.
What?
Hell yeah, you did. You were saying a little bit earlier on in the conversation that there just aren't enough POC performers.
Yeah, there's
just
not enough of us.
non-white performers.
And non-cisgendered ones.
And yes, of course.
I can only obviously speak about the non-white because I am actually cisgendered, but I am not white.
Let's be honest. There's a lack of
Diversity in every
diversity from that stereotypical musical theatre performer, middle to upper class, white. I was about to say straight. There are a lot of queers in theatre. I can't.
Yeah, most of them are white gay men.
Yeah, there's non-cisgendered performers.
100%.
There is a deficit of them. We've sort of touched on it already with you being discouraged from a musical theatre career. Why is this happening, and what do you think is the solution?
Lol, this was my actual what's the word? Not diploma. What's the word that you do? The dissertation. This was my whole dissertation for at the end of drama school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it because it explains. But my question was, can musical theatre schools not be racist when the roots of like the arts are riddled with racism? And like the foundation of it is actually like is built on racism.
Yeah.
And I just think that the reason that there are so many minority groups, like even disabled people or non-white people, non-cisgender people, all these people are not feeling like they can get into the industry full stop, is because they don't want to go to drama school, because where has there ever been any representation for them to think that they can go to those schools? Also, it's expensive. The only reason I went to GSA was because it was with a university, so in my mind I never paid for it.
Yeah,
I'll be paying for it when I'm earning money.
Student loan.
Yeah, 100% student loan. Whereas like some of these big drama schools, like they're like 15,000 a year to go to, and like unless you have money, you're not going to be able to be there.
Well, even just the first step, auditioning.
Yeah,
auditions can cost anywhere from 30 to 40 up to £70 just for that initial audition.
Oh yeah, especially if, for example, like if a place doesn't audition near you, because obviously I was lucky, you have to pay for travel. I was lucky that most of the places that I auditioned for were either in London or GSA, because it's in Guildford. It's literally like £10 train. And like it wasn't even £10 when I did it, because it was like £7.
But if you wanted to audition for, say, Royal Welsh School of Music and Drama, if you wanted to audition for LIPA up in Liverpool, trains are expensive.
Or if I'm in the back out of nowhere, for example, and then I have to try and get to these places because you're not
already in London.
That's hard. And I just think as well, like I remember before I went into GSA, like there was this rhetoric of like they only ever allow one black woman into the school.
Yeah.
Because we only knew of one black girl that was in the year of the first year at the time. And I remember being like to my mum, it's going to be me or some other girl, because if I don't get in, like they only allow one.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see any. Like these people aren't going to want to go to drama school because they don't think it's for them. Like, I didn't think that I only went to drama school because I knew that if I wanted to do this as a career, I had to go there.
You didn't,
I couldn't, in my mind, I was like, there's no other choice. I don't have any other resources to get there.
Yeah, you don't have any contacts. You didn't go to a performing arts high school or anything like that.
So, because I just did A-levels. So in my head, I was like, I have to train if I want to find an easier access route or be taken seriously. And I just don't, I feel like it's just harder for you to want to be there, because if you don't see anybody that's like you there, you're just going to be like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to have to be the minority quota. I don't want to have to be I don't want to have to have issues with people because they don't know how to speak to me because I'm not like them, because these people are from the backouts of nowhere and they've only ever been with people that look exactly like them from their backgrounds with their issues and their problems. Because again, we're not here to educate anybody. And Cherry knows about my time at drama school, where it was an absolute hellhole. It was absolutely insane and embarrassing for the school, not for me. The embarrassing part, the insane part was for me.
Your experience in drama school,
yes,
it was absolutely
rotted.
Some decisions were made.
Decisions were made that were absolutely psychotic.
And I'm not sure if logic was involved in those choices. I'm not sure if common sense or human decency was really involved in some of those.
And do you know what as well? I think the problem is I'm actually away from it now, so it's not as peak as it used to be when I talk about it. Obviously we won't go into detail because we'll actually be here for the rest of our lives. But I feel like the same way that there's a problem with the industry, there are people in the industry and people at drama school that need to leave. They still think in an old way. They are not with the times. And even if they're pretending to be with the times, it's for not good reasons. And they're still at the core very much have isms and schisms.
Yeah.
And so they come out and they do influence how they speak to people, how they treat people, and what value they put on people.
Yeah.
And at drama school, my head of the course literally told me that I wasn't that talented and I was going to get jobs because I'm black. Do you know what I mean? And like in my second year, and I remember sitting there thinking, wow, crazy, you would say that to a student. So nice, so lovely. But like, I mean, it doesn't matter now because I'm literally doing fine. But yeah, it's just things like that, or just that there are teachers still there at that school that I know of that I think, I can't believe you still have a job, because the complaints we put in, you shouldn't be there.
I think this is the core of the issue, that colourblind and gender blind casting, while they are important, if that's not being reflected
in the teams,
in the training, in the decision makers, then it's all sort of surface level.
Oh yeah, well even like if you use the example of my year had 8 non-white people, ask me how many teachers were non-white.
How many teachers were non-white?
1, and he wasn't full-time, he was a dance teacher. The only time they got a full-time teacher was my singing teacher, who's black, and she was only employed as a singing teacher. She's now the head of EDI, diversity and inclusion, basically. I was taught by all white teachers, and it astounded me that I feel like when you don't, and this is for everyone who doesn't experience certain things that other people will, because of what they look like, because of their ability, and because of just they're just their gender. But like, if you don't experience something, you can't fathom what someone else might need sometimes. And so I just think there's a lot of that in the industry where they just wouldn't fathom that certain teams and groups of people need to change for the actors to feel accommodated. Because, you know, GSA can post the My Year group as being very diverse, but then you question them about who's teaching these kids, and they'll have to show the faculty and they'll be like, that's a bunch of white people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then you sit there and question, well, how are you bringing out the diversity of these kids? Is my question. How are you enabling them to feel comfortable to be their diverse self if they only ever see you and they have racist issues from your teams? And then who are they going to? Other white people to tell them white people?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It feels like that kind of self-congratulating. We have 8 non-white people in our year.
100%. Well, 100%. It's then just them patting themselves on the back like, oh, we've done a good job. We don't look racist. Surface level. And I feel like that runs through the whole core of the industry at the moment, where a lot of it is surface level. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the industry. It's not like I don't want to be a part of it, but the reason I want to be a part of it is to change it. I think it's extremely flawed. Extremely flawed.
How would you... Let's say Lizzy-Rose Esin-Kelly is now made queen of the theatre industry.
Whoa, God bless the industry.
What changes do you make?
So many. We need to take away shows that have been here for 10 years. There are some shows that have been there for years, and people who know the industry will know exactly what show I'm talking about, or what shows I'm talking about, need to go, because they were made at a time where racism was funny to poke fun of. And now, if in my personal opinion, if you're not going to make the show in 2023, you do not keep it in the theaters in 2023, because what are you putting out to young performers and to young people to see and go, oh, is that all that they think of me as a performer? I'm this funny dancing monkey kind of thing. there needs to be a change in those shows. There needs to be a change in the people who are casting shows. There are some people who've been casting shows for years, and there's a lot of white men who are casting things. Why, God, why? I have no damn clue. But where is the diversity in panels? Why am I walking into auditions for shows, and the whole panel is white? Why am I doing that in 2023? And why is no one uncomfortable? That's what I'm confused about, because surely, and this is where I not have to give people benefit of the doubt, but I have to really remember the world I live in, because the world I live in is not what's in my head that I think should be right. How do white people sit there wanting to cast a diverse show and their whole panel is white? Are you not embarrassed when you're talking about you want diversity and inclusion, but there's a whole panel of white men sitting there judging me sing as a black woman? As a black queer woman? No, that's crazy to me. Like, you need to start checking your own privileges.
It's such that must be such an alienating experience.
Yeah,
sometimes you're walking into a room and
sometimes it's been hot. Like, sometimes it's been like, I don't even want to be in this room. Like, and I have had experiences in shows where I'm up for a role that doesn't specifically say that it's black, but like they're only seeing black people, as in all the black women, like.
That's not really colourblind casting then, is it?
No, it's all the people that are being seen are black women, or like mixed race women, or just like of a dash of black of some ilk.
Yeah.
And we'll all be sitting there and I'll just think we're all in for the same part, and it just feels like a cattle call of just like, we need you to look like this and be this ilk. And then I come into the room and it's just a panel of white men, and it just feels like they're going dance monkey dance. It's horrible, because even when you have to sit there and think, like, sometimes I sit there and I go, this character doesn't have to be black, so why have you made her black? Like, there's nothing in the script that says she's black. You've decided she's black, and she's actually the most minute, unliked character, but then all these other characters are white. You people are so far removed, and you think by adding some things like this you're helping. You're actually not helping, you're hindering things.
Yeah.
You're hindering us.
We've talked in the past how there's a trend where often either unlikable characters or characters who
go through
get in the way will be played by non-white performers, and then characters who go through trauma and struggles and generally are sad and sort of tragic characters, again, will often be played by black women or women of colour.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are played by white women, but also there is a trend where it's like in shows that have been around for a while,
they
will give the black woman the tragic role where you're not allowed to be happy.
And it's just like, what? Every day pulling my pain. That's crazy. Also, there's a massive trend in the industry where if there are two leads in a show, one of them has to be white and the other one has to be non-white. So the industry doesn't cancel this show. But they can never both be non-white, because that's too much. Do you know, the cover will be non-white, for example, and then maybe one of the leads is non-white, but then the other lead will be white. Like, that's a trend.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, why? What's the need? What's the reason? Like, that's a massive thing that like has happened. Like, that I just think it's silly and it doesn't make sense. And it's just like, well, why can't whoever's good for the job is good for the job? But then I have to question you, why are you so strict on it?
I feel like this comes down to like when we talk about gender blind and colourblind, what do we actually mean? Because it's not tokenism, or it shouldn't be tokenism.
It shouldn't be, but at the moment it definitely is tokenism.
Yes.
Because it just, and I think the reason it is tokenism, partially, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm allowing it to happen, because I'm not, but there isn't enough of us. People will be like, oh, there's not enough diversity in this show. Yeah, because all the good people are already taken, because they're already either in a show, got a show, or maybe they're in between like everyone's already booked.
It starts with the education, doesn't it? And it starts with,
you don't have enough people in school, in the drama schools, full stop. Like, if my year group is the norm now, you only have 8 non-white people.
Here's a statistic for you.
Oh my God, love that from you.
So this is from the Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation.
Yes.
In 2016, they did a report that labelled the British theatre industry as hideously white. And since then, they've done follow-up reports. And in 2021, they said this. Key research findings suggest that since 2016, drama schools have seen the diversity of their student intake has slowly increased from 14% in 2016 to 21.5% in the 2019-2020 academic year. However, diversity in some student cohorts is still in single percentage figures. The report sort of touches on drama schools partnering with state schools and regional theatres and community organisations and doing fee waivers for auditions. And there was a direct correlation between schools that used regional auditions, fees which were waived for the most disadvantaged groups, and those with the highest increase of diversity in their student intake. So, surprise, surprise, when you actively seek out and try to make your school accessible, more people come to it. So weird. However, it says, however, while celebrating this progress, the report makes it clear that there is still a long way to go. Number one, in 5 years, the diversity of the student population has only improved by 7.5 percentage points, and diversity in some student cohorts remains in single percentage figures. The target, point two, the target of 50% of places to be funded by scholarships and bursaries has been achieved by 3 of the 15 drama schools surveyed.
I can imagine. I know what those 3 drama schools are.
There remains a low representation of people of colour in academic management positions across UK drama schools. Surprise, surprise.
Not surprised.
And what I think is really key in this report, it was from 2021, and it was looking at, I believe that it was written and researched during 2020, looking at the 2019-2020 cohort. But something it points out is that the COVID-19 pandemic represents the biggest threat to ongoing diversity efforts, including the sustainability of outreach and inclusion programs due to the shutdown or diversion of money from donor organisations. And all 15 drama schools that were surveyed said that funding aimed at improving inclusion had suffered as a direct result of COVID-19. So what basically, there has been an increase in diversity since this 2016 Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation report. However, there is still a lot that needs to change.
So much.
And it's taken a large hit since COVID. And I'm interested to see what
happens next.
What happens next because of that.
Yeah, I'm interested as well, because I think that there was already so much that needed to happen anyway. Like, I feel like my years in terms of the third year when I came into first year of drama school, and then my year group that left just as COVID was kind of easing up, with the years where it was like, oh, we're starting to understand that non-white people should be in the industry and we should be better at that. But I do still feel like there's so much they need to learn, and I just think it's dangerous for them to think that things are better than they were. They're not better, they're just different. That's my thing always. Nothing in terms of racism or any kind of ism and schism, nothing's better. It's just different.
Yeah.
The times we live in are so different. And even with the whole thing of Black Lives Matter, like, people were confused that people are racist. I thought, guys, let's keep it real. Are you joking? Let's be honest here. Why are you confused? Why are you shocked? But it's because people, I think as well in the industry, I think there's a massive rhetoric of being in the musical theatre industry that we're so loving and we're all so supportive. No, it's a lie. You may be supportive in your own mind, but I would question the non-white people and the cisgendered people to really question how accommodating are you to your counterparts that are not like you.
Yeah.
Really ask yourself that question. How, when a casting team or a creative team have said something, or when a non-white person, non-cisgender person felt alienated, how much have you really been on their side, or how much have you understood them, or made them feel like they weren't alone and could be understood.
It goes back to that structural change. There needs to be fundamental change in how the industry operates.
Yeah.
And the decision makers and the gatekeepers, there needs to be a big shake up in the way the industry is making its decisions and
100%.
the way it is structured. But I think what a lot of decision makers want is to be like, I'm facilitating change. I'm going to cast a black person. I'm going to cast a trans person. I'm going to cast a woman. Aren't I amazing?
And you sit there and go, what are you actually doing?
But what really would be valuable is to go, okay, I've had my time in the industry. Let me step back, or let me make actual change where I am getting people from underrepresented backgrounds, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, non-white backgrounds, from non-cisgendered backgrounds.
People from the disabled community.
Let me actually get them in leadership roles.
I feel like as well people are afraid of, they're afraid of people taking over. It's really funny to me when people want change, but I sit there and go, the people that need to be the change are the people that are at the top. You man need to leave. You can stand there and say you want change, but actually you man need to go. But they don't want to.
The fear is, isn't it, if we let them get too much power, when I say them, I think it's generally people who we are defining as other and not us. If we let them in, where's the space for me going to be?
Yeah, it's all about self-preservation. I just think it's very interesting because it's just like you want change, but you actually don't want to be the source of change. You just want to be able to put a stamp and say you are a part of it, even though what you're changing isn't changing. You're just making racism a bit different.
Yeah.
You're redefining the racial roles, specifically, obviously me talking about racism, but you're redefining the racial roles in theatre. You're not actually breaking barriers or boundaries. You're not doing anything revolutionary by making this one character non-white and then or having this cover be non-white and then the character still be white. Like you're not breaking any boundaries. You're not doing anything new. And you shouldn't, my personal opinion, you should never be clapped on the back for it. I don't want to see any more people being applauded for doing something. They're doing the bare minimum. What are you on about?
Say, great, what are you doing now?
Yeah,
what's the next thing? Or what are you doing to make sure that is a meaningful and lasting change?
Because it can't, in my mind, I'm like, this should never be a one-stop trip. Why are you moving as if this is like, oh, this was an amazing point in history? It doesn't make any sense to me. And also like, it's just, it really confuses me how people can stand there and feel like they deserve praise for not being racist. I also find it just weird, like, why do you want to profit off that? Do you know how insane that is?
Yeah.
Do you know how weird that is?
A lot of people I feel like there is definitely a thing of people positioning themselves as the saviour kind of thing.
They love it, which I find very, like, bombastic side eye.
I am the Lorax.
Why are you doing that? I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. Why are you doing that? It's just very strange. I think people need to take a big step back in myself and go, what am I trying to do? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm a cisgendered woman. Yes, I'm black and I'm queer, but I'm able-bodied. What am I trying to do to make sure that certain people that aren't like me and don't have my opportunities are also being seen and being heard? Like, there are some things you always have to check your own privilege, because even though, yes, I don't have the same privilege as a white cis straight man, I still have privilege 110%.
Everyone does.
The fact that I can be in a West End show and was in a West End show, it is privilege in itself. You know, I'd be stupid to think that I didn't.
Privilege takes many forms.
Yeah, it takes many forms. And I just feel like a lot of people don't want to ever check their privilege and see where they are failing as people.
Yeah.
And the industry needs to do a massive, like, look at themselves and go, wow, let's actually think when we do certain things and we think we're helping, who are we helping? Because who have we turned around to a table and spoken to about this is helpful? Is it just a lot of white men that are making a decision, or even a lot of white women that are sitting there making a decision going, this will be helpful for this community? Where's anyone from the community? I don't understand. Even the discussion of who gets a job and what that then means for that person, and then that's that community, and then the groundwork they have to do to keep up an authentic, like, lasting change. I don't think they think about that. And if they do think about that, they think about it because they're scared, not because they want the change to be there for other people to feel seen. They're afraid for their own selves. And it's a shame, because the industry can be in an amazing place. And I've been, for example, fortunate enough to go to like the Olivier Awards and perform, and literally it was one of the best days of my life, because you were just in a room full of the UK's top talent. And it was so humbling to be there and to be able to perform there with like the Company of Greece, and just to witness other creatives and actors perform and be awarded like their accolades that they're good. Like, it's an incredible day to be involved in. So there are amazing parts about being in the industry, but there's also just like, the realism is so harsh when you're even when you're white, it's hard because you get rejection. But when you're non-white, I just feel like, a non-cisgendered, you just feel like everything's a battle. You're always having to prove yourself. You're always having to feel like you have to make your mark as a person. And you always have to for me, I have to walk into an audition being like, they kind of want to see me because I'm black. They don't think I'm talented yet. I have to prove to them I'm talented. They've not seen me because they want to actually get to know me as a talent, because they've seen my CV. They actually want to see me because I'm a diversity quota that could help them look less racist. And that's hard. And I think certain people who, you know, are cisgendered or are white will never feel that when they walk into auditions. Going way back to the beginning of why this is an issue, that there's not many people. There is a lack of care and a lack of appreciation or compassion for non-white and non-cisgendered performers being in a space of white cisgendered people. I think they expect us to be the same, and because we've all gotten here to the same job, they feel like, yeah, we're all the same. We're not the same. How Sally got here is not the same as way as how I got here. Sally has had a very different path to me, and that's fine. But even her stepping into this room and sitting at this table of a reading, I mean, everyone's dyslexic in this industry, but I'm a black dyslexic person. And I think people forget the kind of implications of the fact that, for example, I speak like a road gal. I'll be like, yeah, that's mad, you know. Oh, well, go on. And I'll speak like that because that's how I speak.
Yeah. And
then also being dyslexic, there's certain things that people don't understand, that there are stereotypes that I have to always feel like I either have to lean into, because I am that stereotype. I do sound like a roadman when I speak, and I don't care. I won't code switch no more. I don't give a flying fuck. Like, why am I going to do that? Or stereotypes I have to lean out of, where sometimes I have to sit there and go, I am very intelligent. I'm very eloquent. I know what I'm talking about. And I may have not gone to the best school for secondary school. I got many GCSEs. I got all my A levels. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are certain things where they don't have to prove themselves. Yeah, there's certain biases that they don't have to prove themselves, though we have to prove ourselves. And we're not even doing our job yet. We're not even doing the grueling or the rehearsal process and learning all the lines. We are just trying to exist.
It's such a mind fuck as well.
It's a lot, and I just think it's not for the faint-hearted anyway. But then add on the layers of just racism and bigotry that are there. If you're non-white and non-cisgendered, like, it's not for the faint-hearted to then just be in the room. It's a lot.
Yeah. Coming back to that question of gender and colourblind casting, what are the parameters, or what are the boundaries that what you think is acceptable in terms of colourblind and gender blind casting? Looking at like a historical figure or real people, to what extent can we and should we be gender blind and colourblind?
I find this one hard to an extent, because I feel like historical characters, if you're giving, like, you know, Hamilton, I'm thinking it's never that deep. Do you know what I mean? We all know they're white. Well, Hamilton's the reason, in my opinion, why quote unquote colourblind casting, colour conscious casting has started since 2016, and that was again a essay I did like in first year, because before that there was no show that wasn't that, in terms of that had non-white people or non-cisgender people at the forefront of telling a story. Didn't have anything to do with race or gender.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't that.
The one example I can think of, I think it was Hello Dolly. But on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out
but
there.
they changed the cast to an all-black cast.
Yeah, and there was that famous Broadway production that was an all-black cast. Yes. But that's the only one that springs to mind. And maybe that's because I'm young and uneducated. That's the only one that
I can think of. Maybe, again, I'm ignorant. But in terms of that, I feel like that show is a good example of them saying, we're making a statement. We're telling a story of an orphan immigrant, yak, 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 and the American, treasury system, how America became the America we see today.
Mm.
But the whole show is about a statement of saying, like, anyone should be able to play characters. We have sat in an industry of too long where white people have dominated, and that's what really Hamilton's actually about in terms of the subtext of the show. That's what it's actually about.
Yeah.
And then obviously when you go and see the show, it's giving rap and breakdancing.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda, you would literally use famous bars as lyrics.
Yeah,
it was completely referential to black rap and hip hop culture.
Yeah, 100%. So that's more of a statement musical. But in terms of musicals that are have figures that, for example, we know what they look like, I find it harder in terms of, I can see why people would be like, well, it has to be done by the person that, for example, if the person's actually like a Native American or Mexican or black, please keep them as that, because there's not enough of them anyway as people of a story.
I think it comes back to that thing of meaningfulness.
Yeah, 100%.
And throughout the history of theatre, Western theatre, you've had many a white actor put on blackface and play Othello.
Well, musical theatre is based on the minstrel shows. It comes from blackface, and these performers, from my research for my dissertation, that's where musical theatre began.
Well, so much of musical history, you have actors in blackface, actors in yellowface, actors just contributing to disgusting racial stereotypes.
Yeah.
It comes back to that thing of meaningfulness. Why are you doing this? What statement are you making?
Yeah, 100%.
I think Hamilton's an interesting one because many people have critiqued Hamilton for its colourblind casting, because I think it's a very valid critique. You've taken a period of American history, which you cannot remove slavery from, a period of history that is heavily dependent upon the exploitation of enslaved people,
the black people,
and you've taken people, white men, who were actively perpetuating this, and if they were not, they were actively benefiting from it,
and you're glorifying them in a rap musical,
and casting them as black people, and or non-white people is a more accurate statement. And there was a play about it written by Ishmael Reed called The Haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda.
That is so funny to me. I cannot explain to you how jokes that is. The Haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Do you know how memes that is?
It's sort of, I think it's kind of based on A Christmas Carol, I think. And it's these ghosts are visiting Lin-Manuel Miranda. But it's a play that's sort of critiquing the whitewashing of Hamilton. Whitewashing meaning cleaning it, not whitewashing in terms of
the people playing the characters. I can imagine.
I think it's very much a product of the Obama era optimism. Hamilton.
I feel like it was made in a very different time. I feel like, because that was what? That's 7 years ago. Hamilton was made 7 years ago. It came to basically the America 7 years ago. And I just, even maybe 8 years ago, because I think it was 2015. But I feel like that time of life was so different. Like you said, the Obama era, but also it will always be that thing of something at the time is so revolutionary and so beneficial of the time. Like, for example, there's a show called Showboat, and any of the people that went to drama school, or any of my friends who know how I hate this show, I hate Showboat. I think it's so stupid. But there's this show called Showboat, and it's basically about this. It's about this showboat on the Mississippi River. It's an actual performance boat, whatever, and it's in the time of it's giving in the time of slavery, and there's a performer called Julie. I don't remember her name, but she's white passing, but she is mixed race. She's got a dash of black in her, but she's so white passing you wouldn't be able to tell. And so she's allowed to perform on this boat. And then there's this, I don't really even know the story very well, but it's basically, that's the show, and people are like, it's so revolutionary because it was the first time black people were on stage and singing and stuff. And I just remember thinking obviously I used to be yeah, it's revolutionary for that time, but as a black woman in this day and age, I would not want to see a show where a woman is a dash of black and then getting hatred because she's literally white passing. I was just there's only one. It's just the whole notion is so stupid. It's such a bad show.
It's not good representation or meaningful representation
for the black community.
The black community
100%,
today.
100%.
Or even then, really.
Very silly. But I don't like the show because I just think that the notion of it being good is it's just funny. She has to be this very white passing that you wouldn't know that she's got as they like to say, Negro blood in her. Crazy. But yeah, I just hate I hate the show. But for that time, it was so revolutionary for black people, and it was the first time that I think I could be wrong, but it was the first time that black and white people were integrated into a show. I can't even remember when it was put on, ages ago, as in
I can tell you here, I'm just giving it a skim. Yeah. The original Broadway cast was 1927.
1927.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there was a 1936 film.
Yes.
And there's been many revivals since.
I feel double check for me if it's the first time that black and white people have been integrated into a musical, because I feel but it's revolutionary for a reason. I should really know this because I did a degree in musical theatre and I can't really remember it.
Showboat boldly portrayed racial issues and was the first racially integrated musical in that both black and white performers appeared and sang on stage together.
Told you. See, maybe I do know my degree.
So it's one of those things where it's for the time, revolutionary. We've moved on.
And actually, does it tackle racism? No.
I feel when people are oh my God, so we're cancelling Hamilton now, we're cancelling Showboat now. It's no, we're just
acknowledging that it doesn't help us nowadays.
Developing as a culture.
Yeah, 100%.
We're growing up.
We can't
grow up.
We literally grow up. We can't sit there and be yeah, these shows are so important now. They're important for the time. To go back to Hamilton, it's one of those ones where for the time it was very revolutionary, and now we have to adapt. We're not saying that Hamilton's the worst thing in the world, or we're not saying, I'm saying Showboat's a piece of shit, but certain things, they were great for a community, but you can't sit there and say that it will always be great for a community, because certain things are going to come up. This is what it is. Certain things are good at the time, and then they become a system, and they become a part of a well-oiled machine of we're making money from this situation, so certain things need to be like this and that and the other. That's what happens. I do believe some things start off as we're trying to help a community, and then money gets involved, and then social media gets involved, and then big-headedness gets involved, and then it turns into, well, now this is a system, and this is the reason the musical theatre industry is called the musical theatre industry is because it's an industry. It's built on money, it's built on capitalism, it's built on ticket sales, and what is going to make this industry stay is money. And so I feel shows become that, though they're good for the start, then it becomes what's good for business.
Yeah. Well, I think generally what you're getting on the West End isn't particularly radical. And no matter how much Andrew Lloyd Webber would like to convince you that Cinderella having dark hair and Doc Martens is a radical feminist take on the classic fairy tale. It's not.
I'm not commenting on this one. I'm trying to get jobs. I'm trying to be employed in my life. I can't comment on this because I'm
Andrew Lloyd Webber, if you're listening.
Listen, this isn't me.
This is the opinions of Cherry Eccles only.
I'm trying to get jobs in this life. I'm trying to get platforms.
You know, no matter how much any West End producer or director or writer would like to convince you, the majority of, I won't say all, the majority of the stuff you are seeing on the West End is empty, contrived.
I love that word right now.
It's not. They're dressing up as something radical. They're dressing up like they're saying radical statements. They're not actually saying them.
Who's the creative team on this radical show? Show me
Andrew
the people.
Lloyd Webber.
Show me the people who are the creatives on this radical show.
Did you see that thing that's like Andrew Lloyd Webber feels scared to make musicals because of cancel culture? And I'm like, we did it! We won! We're free! Well, Lizzy-Rose.
Yes.
I'm going to say pens down. The time for this exam is over. Can you please give me your thesis statement to the question? Should gender and/or colourblind casting be the norm in the performing arts?
My thesis statement would be, in conclusion, colourblind and gender conscious casting should be the norm. Blind casting is not real and is just a idea to allow performers to be used in shows to make creatives and casting look with the times and educated when they're not. So I think the conclusion is it should be the norm in a conscious way, and we need to demolish white people at the top of creative teams and casting teams. Otherwise things can't change. And I'm not saying they can't be there, but there needs to be more people who are non-white, non-cisgendered at the forefront of casting and creative. It can't just be one. It has to be both.
Absolutely. Now, All Souls only accepts up to 2 people every year to this fellowship. 1 year, nobody got in because nobody was good enough.
Christ.
However, here at the exam hall, we do not discriminate. Everybody is welcome here. So we have given your application careful consideration. And I am thrilled to welcome you into the hallowed halls of the alumni of the exam hall. How does it feel?
Oh my God, what? Yes.
If you got into All Souls, you would receive 7 years of funding to undertake any research project of your choice.
Do you know how crazy that is?
In it, they would give you a salary.
Lovely.
They would give you board. You would be able to study any subject of your choice at Oxford. And you would be given contacts with leading professionals in your industry. So essentially the removal of all financial barriers, lots of doors suddenly being open for you.
Lovely.
If you had 7 years to learn and discover, what would you do?
I think I would try and achieve there to be a better mental health system for specifically non-white people, because I do just believe that the idea of having any kind of mental health awareness or mental health, I can obviously talk about only me being black, but there's none of that in existence. I know that there's an organisation that does help with that, and I should probably know the name, but I've forgotten it. But yeah, I would put money into research of how I could help that become more of a thing. I feel like a lot of problems specifically for me anyway, in terms of being black, and not all the problems of being black, but like obviously racism is a thing, and in terms of like everything that you experience as a young person growing up in a society that tells you that you're not good enough and XYZ ABC, there's a lot to unpack there, and into your adult life when then you start having power and making decisions. And I do just think that a lot of people need to be healed. So I think I'd want to just have some money to research how to better get non-white people and any minority person into therapy.
Yeah.
Because the world has changed a lot from when I was younger.
Yeah.
It's still hard, but it's a very different place to be. There needs to be, I feel like once more people of a minority have been healed, I think whatever your minority is, I feel like you being othered is just enough, will enable them to feel like they can be in positions of power.
Looking back on your time in education,
Yes.
what sort of barriers do you feel like you faced to gaining that education, or what barriers did you have to gaining an education that sort of 7 years of funding and opportunity would, I don't want to say undo, but would remove?
I feel like I went to a very like bad secondary school, where just like there was no resources there, like whatsoever. I feel like learning and understanding things would just like school wasn't the best environment, not even because like, oh, I was bullied, like just because the school was just so badly funded that to go to school and learn was just not fun. So I feel like, I don't know, just like it would really like having that like barrier taken away. I feel like money, as much as like it's not the root to any kind of happiness, like it enables so many things to happen.
Money doesn't equal happiness. It can solve a lot of problems that do cause unhappiness.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just think it would have changed. It would have enabled me to be in a better learning environment. Like, though I had a nice time, I wasn't really learning anything. I was just there.
Well, it wasn't until you got to your first year of university, second year, where someone finally said, have you ever been checked out for dyslexia?
Oh my Christ, that's
where someone
such a
finally said to you, hey,
you're dyslexic.
It's like,
you
hey,
can't read, babe.
Words don't move about on the page for most people. That's not normal.
Imagine me sitting there going, oh, my head is hurting. All these words are appearing and disappearing. And then everyone's being like, that makes no sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting that you see that, babe. Yeah, like, even like, I remember my English teacher, though I didn't like her, even was like, you're actually really smart, but your grammar and the way you write and then like your reading level does not reflect that. And it wasn't until I had to go to uni and then we had to read part of the one of our courses in one of the modules was to like what's it called? You had to just read stuff aloud.
Yeah.
Sight reading. You had to do sight reading.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, it was bad. It was very bad from me. I was so bad at it and I got so embarrassed. I had to just leave the room and I just cried because I was like, I can't read this. And that's when they were like, you should probably get checked out for dyslexia because like the way how hard you're finding this is like crazy. But yeah, if my school had more funding, they probably would have known like from ages ago, this poor girl, she's dyslexic, let's put in tools in place to help her. Whereas now I've had to learn as an adult, like for certain things, I'm like, I'm better at it now and my reading aloud isn't as bad, but like I'm like focused.
Now you know what the issue is, you're able to deal with it.
I don't feel stupid anymore. I'm just like, I just got dyslexia.
Yeah.
I'm very dyslexic. God bless my soul. I'm so dyslexic.
Oh, mate. Oh, well, Lizzie.
Yes.
Lizzy-Rose.
Why?
Lizzy-Rose Esin-Kelly.
Oh my God, my whole name.
Elizabeth Rose
Okay.
Esin-Kelly. Too much?
That's the government.
Too much? Okay,
Let's not put that on the airways, what my government name is. Not the Govy, bruv. Don't try and find me.
Thank you so much for being here with me today.
It
has been an absolute joy to have you here, as always.
Love you.
I love you too.
Aww.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, proud of you.
I'm going to start crying.
Oh my Christ. God's sake.
Before we part,
God.
Is there anything you would like to shout out, promote, any final words of wisdom you have to bestow upon us hungry masses?
Shout out to the mandem. To my friends, love you. What would I like to promote? God, I don't know. I don't have nothing that I want to promote, but I would like to say to just keep being educated. And that doesn't mean that you need to be the smartest person in the world. Just be educated about people in the world, not about facts and figures. Like, be educated about the people that live on the earth with you, and be mindful of other people and other people's lives, even if it doesn't affect you. And then you'll be good to go. Just be a compassionate human being. Aww. And that's all you need to be. And have jokes and memes. Nothing's ever that serious. Do you know what I mean? Like, keep a joke and a meme.
That's a good philosophy, I think. Lizzie, thank you very, very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much for listening to this episode of The Exam Hall. If you want to stay up to date with the podcast, you can follow us on social media at The Exam Hall Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And while you're there scrolling through, if you want to know what I, Cherry Eccles, am up to, you can also follow me on social media. You can find me at Cherry the Eccles on Instagram and Twitter, and you can also find me Cherry Eccles on YouTube. If you've listened to today's episode and you think, hey, that sounds fun, I want to give that a go, I want to be a guest, get in touch, come be a guest. I would love to speak to some of you lovely people out there on the airwaves. So if you're interested in being a guest, you can click the link in the episode description, which will take you to an expression of interest form, or get in contact on one of the previously aforementioned social medias. I want to give a very, very big shout out to Boundless Theatre, whose support has made this podcast possible. And I want to give a very, very big shout out to you for listening. Thank you very much for doing that. It's very kind. If you've listened and you've enjoyed the episode, please give it a rate, give it a subscribe, tell all your friends and family. Any support is very, very, very greatly appreciated. I hope wherever you are, whoever you are, you're having a lovely day. And I hope it stays lovely. And I hope you stay lovely. And I hope you just generally things are lovely. And if they're not, I hope they get lovely soon. I'm going to go now and stop taking up your day so it can continue being lovely. See you later. See you at the next one.